Welcome to Community Green TiniHabitat Podcast, where we explore the extraordinary journeys of different individuals. I'm your host, Yusuf, and today we have a very special guest joining us, Holly Barber. She's the creator of EcoMonkey and a passionate advocate for nature connection and well-being. Holly has dedicated her life for helping people reconnect with the natural world and find solace and inspiration in its beauty. Through her work with EcoMonkey, she brings awareness to our environment and ecology, guiding individuals on a journey of self-discovery and a deeper connection with nature. With a profound love for nature, Holly believes that spending time in the natural world can ground us, heal us, and remind us of our place within the web of interbeings. Her own experiences, from witnessing breathtaking wildlife encounters to finding solace in the quiet of a bird hide, have shaped her understanding of the power of nature. Not only is Holly an expert in nature therapy and forest therapy, developed by the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy Guides, but she is also a certified Wim Hof Method instructor. Through breathwork, cold exposure, and mindset, she helps individuals transform their physiology, chemistry, and overall well-being. Today, we will dive deep into Holly's journey, exploring her personal connection with nature, her experiences with the Wim Hof Method, and the transformative power of EcoNIDRA. So without further ado, let's welcome Holly Barber to the show. Hello. And welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good as well. Speaking of Wim Hof, I just took a cold shower. And yeah, that's I mean it's summertime, so I guess taking cold showers is easier these days. But still I like to take cold showers on winter as well. And I have a lot of questions about that. But let's start with first. I always like founding stories, so I want to ask, can you tell us about the inception of the EcoMonkey and your journey into nature therapy? What inspired you to start this venture?
Okay, no problem. So it was back in 2019. I was working for an animal welfare organisation here in the UK, and I wasn't really happy in my job. And I decided to take myself off to Costa Rica for a month. Costa Rica is a country that a very good friend of mine described it as the land of manifestation. Things happen in Costa Rica. And I took the attitude of I was going to say yes to whatever Costa Rica offered me. And it was a brave step for me to take. I'm not usually someone that will go, yes. I normally like to think about things, but I was encouraged to just say yes. And I was over there and I went to one of my favourite places, which is in Uvitar in Punta Arenas province. And I walked backwards and forwards along this beach going, what do I want? What do I want to do with my life? And to this day, I don't know whether it was the pounding waves of the Pacific Ocean to one side of me or the vibrant jungle to the other, but something spoke to me and something told me that my life was about nature. It was about being in nature. It wasn't about being in an office working 9 to 5. It was about nature. And I didn't know what that meant, but I said yes. And a few days later, I was little bit further up the coast in Quepos, near Manuel Antonio, and it was my birthday. I had this grand plan that I was going to go kayaking in the mangroves for my birthday, but the tides were wrong. It didn't happen, and instead I ended up visiting a wildlife rescue centre called Kids Saving the Rainforest. And I was so inspired by the work that they did that after visiting the rescue centre, I went back to my hostel I was staying in it, and I went down to the beach in Manuel Antonio, and I again walked backwards and forwards along this beach going, what does all of this mean? What does it mean? And something came to me on that beach. And it was, I wanted to start my own charity. I wanted to be able to support wildlife rescue projects across the world. Because when you look at wildlife rescue, no matter which country you're in, 99% of the time, the animals have come into conflict with humans, and it's unintentional conflict with humans for most of the time. There are some cases where it isn't, and that's a whole different ball game. But most of the time, we've just forgotten how to live in harmony with the natural world. And I wanted to start a charity that in part helped support financially these rescue projects that do incredible work. But I also wanted to show the world how we can live in harmony with the natural world. Because if we can live back in harmony with the natural world, as our ancestors once did, less animals, less wildlife is going to come to harm, because we can live cohesively with them. So it was from that, I came back to the UK. I set about this plan to start my own charity. I left the job that I was in. And as I was looking for ways and I was Googling ways of how can I help people connect with the natural world, there was one thing that kept coming up and up and up for me, and that was forest bathing. And I was still of the mindset of I'm going to say yes to whatever the universe is offering me. And I appreciate it was probably an algorithm within social media and within Google that was giving me this rather than the universe. But I still said yes, because everywhere I turned, there was something about forest bathing. So I set about looking into it more, and it made perfect sense to me. It's something I've been doing all my life. So when we talk about forest bathing, people quite often think we're going to get wet. We're going to put our swimwear on and we're going to go swimming somewhere in the middle of the forest. But I encourage you to look at it a different way. Of when we're sunbathing, what we're doing is absorbing in goodness from the sun. And when we're forest bathing, we're absorbing in the goodness from nature and from the forest. And so I joined a training program with the ANFT, which is the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy Guides and Programs, as you said. And it was an extraordinary journey to become a guide. And it just made perfect sense to me. And it was through doing this that I decided I wanted to start my own business. Where people donate money to a charity, I want that money to go to a good cause. And I didn't want it to be coming to paying me and for allowing me to live my life. So I decided to set up my own business. And that's where the Eco Monkey was born. So that I could run a business that would sustain me, but a percentage of everything that I make through the Eco Monkey and through the wellbeing work that I do goes back into the Global Wildlife Rescue Project. So it's all feeding in and it's all kind of interlinked and woven in. So that's kind of how Eco Monkey started, was my desire to not take a wage or a salary out of a charity that I'd started, but for all of that money that goes into a charity to go to a good cause.
Awesome. So, I am more keen into, how you got that insight. I guess, what's the beach's name, by the way? Maybe I shall go walk someday. maybe some good insight will come to me as well.
It's part of the Marina Balena National Park in Costa Rica. So it's where the whale's tail is in Uvita. It's a beautiful, beautiful beach.
Yeah,
means a lot to
awesome.
me.
My question is, we'll deep dive into EcoMonkey just in a couple of minutes. But since you were walking down and that insight come to you about nature, but were you into nature? Like, I mean, how did that insight come? Maybe some other insight might have come. That's what I'm kind of curious now.
I've always loved nature. I've always loved animals.
Yeah.
As a child, I didn't have dolls. I had cuddly animals. I was given a monkey when I was a baby that I still is still on my bed today. It was a Curious George. My dad absolutely loved nature programs that were on the television. He knew a lot about nature anyway. And I think a lot of my love of nature did come from my father. I also, in a previous life, I worked for a wildlife filmmaker. His name's Simon King. He has done a lot of he was one of the camera crew on things like Planet Earth and Blue Planet. An amazing, amazing wildlife filmmaker. And his love for the natural world really rubbed off on me. You can't help but be around Simon and just get caught up in the passion that he has for it. And Simon had a thing that he wanted people to see the natural world. And that's what he's able to show the world through his amazing filmmaking. He is one of the best wildlife filmmakers in the world. And if you get to know it, you'll then get to love it. And if you love something, you'll want to look after it and protect it. And it's that ethos that has stuck with me, and that really struck a chord with me of you've got to help people see something, connect with something, get to know it, get to understand it. And only then will they love something enough to then want to protect it and save it for future generations.
Yeah, okay, cool. And that's for the founding story. So if you talk about your experiences a bit, can you share some of the most profound impacts nature therapy has had on your life and well-being? You just said a little bit about nature. By the way, nature therapy and forest bathing, is it the same thing, or forest forest bathing is maybe a part of the nature therapy.
Kind of used terms that are used and intertwined with one another.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the practice the term forest bathing originated from a Japanese practice called Shinrin-yoku that started in 1982 in Japan. But we can argue whichever theory of evolution you subscribe to, we've been forest bathing since the beginning of time. There are certified therapists who work outside. Whilst I'm not a therapist, I help people connect with the natural world for well-being. So in the ANFT, we have the saying that the forest is the therapist and the guide just opens the doors. So I trust that my partner in the practice that I offer of forest bathing is the natural world. And whilst we call it forest bathing, I run sessions in parks, on beaches, by the river here in Littlehampton where I live. So there is all different environments in which you can connect. So I use forest bathing, nature therapy. I intertwine the two in the purposes of what I do, but I also understand that there is another therapeutic practice around nature therapy.
So, okay, then let's go back to the original question. Like, let's talk about the impact on you, because you just said, after my first taking of nature therapy, I decided I want to share this. What are some of the impacts on you and yourself?
I think for me, I've had some very profound moments out in nature. I've seen some incredible wildlife sites. I know I've been very lucky and very privileged in some of the sites that I've seen. Things like seeing a leopard in the Kruger National Park in South Africa was one of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen. I was on this same beach in Costa Rica the year before I had my profound moment, and I saw 5 scarlet macaw parrots fly overhead. I have the worst photograph I've ever taken of any animal was of those macaws, because I was in tears just seeing how stunningly beautiful these scarlet macaws are. Being out in the Pacific Ocean and having humpbacks breach next to you, you suddenly feel very small and you understand your place in the world. Swimming out in amongst bioluminescence in the middle of a dark night, you have a very different perspective of life. And for me, it is that messages come to me. I feel very connected with the natural world. Obviously, that day when I walked backwards and forwards along the beach in Costa Rica, I had very profound download of information, but I don't know where it came from. It wasn't something. Running my own business, running my own charity was never anything that I aspired to do. That was never in my grand plan. And here I am doing both. And that's because of that day and what I got in that moment and me saying yes. There have been other moments of, I lost my father 7 years ago now. And there are times when I feel that connection with him when I see a kingfisher fly past on the river. The kingfisher was his favourite bird. And it's that sense of connection that there is a message coming from another realm, another world, wherever my father now is. Are those moments of connection with him. There are moments when I have a decision to make. I'm going through a rough patch that there is something that I just need some comfort, and I can go out and I can be in a forest and I can feel connected. I feel supported. Just leaning back against a tree. Yesterday, I was doing some forest bathing at a festival here in West Sussex, and it was feeling really supported by the giant redwoods that were in the forest where we were doing the practice. And it's just these really strong, magnificent trees, and they just really support you and hug you. And there's science that has proved that hugging a tree has the same effect as hugging a person. And certainly during COVID and during lockdown, people were encouraged to go and hug a tree where you couldn't hug people you'd ordinarily go and hug, to have that sense of connection. And it really does make that difference. And it's seeing a more than human world. These are beings. They're not just objects. They are living, breathing beings. And if you can see them as a being, then they offer you that companionship, that company, that support. It's the thing of during lockdown, I lived by myself. So I didn't get to see people. I didn't get to talk to people as often as I would ordinarily. But I lived near a river and I lived close to a beach. And to be able to see the tide come in every day, to connect with the river, that was a constant companion for me during those months of lockdown where we weren't allowed to go and see people and spend time with them.
Hearing you about your experiences, it kind of makes me feel like I am missing out a lot because I am actually living in a big city. So I live in Istanbul, right? And there are not a lot. I mean, there are some nature sites if you actually go take a car to very long distance. There are, but usually speaking, there are not much nature to see. I guess I can go hug a tree in a sense. But okay, actually, this is one of my questions. I was gonna ask a little bit later on, but so I was gonna ask you, what do you recommend for people to live these benefits? What do you recommend for people who are living in city areas, urban areas? Do you have any recommendation for people like
There's,
me? Or
I certainly do. And I run forest bathing sessions remotely online, and I have people join from around the world. And one of the things I remind people, we are nature. So nature isn't something an abstract, it isn't separate to us. We are nature ourselves. If you look at indigenous cultures, indigenous languages, many don't have a word for nature. Because by giving something a name, you're putting it in a box and separating it from yourself. And why would we do that when we are nature? And I had one participant in one of my remote sessions. She was in Taiwan, in Taipei. She was high up in a high-rise block of flats, and it was the middle of the night for her. And in forest bathing, I offer invitations. And I consciously use the term invitation because there is no right or wrong way to take anything that I offer to you. It's all about how it lands with you in that moment. And I offered an invitation, and she said, what do I do? If I look out the window, it's black. I've got no plants or anything in my apartment with me. What do I do? How can I do this? And I suggested to her, or I asked the question, did she have any fruit or vegetables? And she had an orange. And she did all of the invitations that I offered her around this one orange. And she was amazed at the end of the session. Her feedback was how deeply relaxed she felt and how much she couldn't believe how much she got out of this one orange. So whilst yes, it's great if you can be outside and you can be hugging a tree in the forest, in a park, on a beach, you don't have to be. You could have within your apartment, within your home, a potted plant. You could have fruit or vegetables. You could have stones. You could have a piece of driftwood. You could have shells. You could have whatever natural objects. And it's how you connect with those and how you respond to those. It's remembering that it's a process inside as well. And it's about how you connect with yourself. So it's with forest bathing. I might offer an invitation, and I generally do at the end of a session. I will either offer one of two invitations. I either offer a sit spot. And it's the easiest one to describe, but one of the most challenging ones to do because we're not used to just sitting and doing nothing. And it's based on a saying that the Spanish have of how beautiful it is to do nothing and then rest. And a sit spot is just about being and sitting. And it's finding somewhere where you live. And it could be by a window. It could be in a garden. It could be on a balcony. It could be in a local park. And just sit and be for 10 minutes. And do that a couple of times a week. And to start with, it's very hard because we're not used to just stopping and doing nothing at all. So that's a good one to just really slow you down and to make you stop for a moment. The other invitation I like to offer is be with a being. So if you take any natural object and see it as being a being, that it has a soul to it. And just find that being, whichever being, and say it could be that it's an orange, it could be that it's a stone, it could be it's a tree, and just hold it and connect to it and feel it against your heart, feel it against your body, and just really connect with that being. That again will give you that sense of connection with the wider natural world without having to be right out in the middle of a forest. And that being may have a message for you. You may have something you want to share with that being. And it's a really beautiful way of just reconnection and remembering we're part of nature. But ultimately, all any of us can do, when you look out of a window, all you have to do is look up. And you're looking at nature. The sky is nature. Watching clouds pass by. Part of nature. Nature doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in the middle of wilderness.
Yeah, that's a good mindset shift. You yourself is nature as well. It's a good mindset shift, but it might come a little bit hard to some people, I guess. I mean, I personally didn't thought about it like that. I mean, because I think in our society, when you say nature like has to be a forest or like has to be a place where some like there's green or there's sea or there's something. But yeah, that's really food for thought for me. But I was gonna say something else too. Oh yeah, do nothing. I know a meditation technique called do nothing. It's I think an Eastern yogi called Shinzen Yong. I think it was his technique. I also practiced a little bit. Like I don't. Is it similar to that or?
I'm not aware of that practice.
Yeah. Okay.
Ultimately, the Kemba is we are human beings. We're not human doings.
Yeah.
And we spend far too much time doing and not enough time.
Yeah.
And there are pressures on all of us to think we've got to be doing something all the time. We're worrying about, we're in our heads, we're constantly thinking about what is coming next. Is it what we're cooking for dinner? Is it what we've got to, the housework we've got to do, the bills we've got to pay, we've got to do whatever it might be. Just take a moment to just sit and be in that moment, be present in that moment.
Yeah.
And it will make a difference.
That's, I think, one of the number one thing that we miss these days. I guess we have to be remembered again and again. You went a little bit light. It's not just, what am I cooking for dinner, but it's more about like having our phones and, our technology with us. And that's always creates a little bit of distraction. Yeah. That's...
It very much so. So within our bodies, within our central nervous system, we have our autonomic nervous system. That's made up of the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight response, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest. The sympathetic nervous system, if say it was designed, go back to our hunter-gatherer ancestors, if they came across a mountain lion or a wolf or a bear, that sympathetic nervous system is designed to get you to safety. It takes energy away from non-essential functions such as your digestion and gets you the hell out of that situation until you're safe. Your parasympathetic is the healthier spent time it's where you're doing things like digesting your food, and it's the rest and digest. Whilst we don't have mountain lions and bears and wolves that we're encountering on a day-to-day basis, we have our mobile phones, as you say. We've got social media, we've got mass media, we've got the newspapers, news channels running 24/7. They're all in distress, and that's why actually being in the natural world actually helps bring you back into your parasympathetic nervous system. So when you hear the sound of bird song, or you hear running water or waves crashing on a beach, it goes back to your hunter-gatherer ancestors again, that when they heard those sorts of sounds, it told them life could be sustained in that area, and therefore they were safe. And it's the same with us now. Whilst a lot of people in the world today wouldn't know how to survive in those environments, hearing the sound of a song tells us we're safe because life can be sustained in that area. And that's why, if you look at a lot of the meditation apps that are available on the market today, they all use natural soundscapes because it triggers back to that nugget of wisdom that has passed down every generation since our hunter-gatherers to say these sorts of sounds We feel in them. We know life can be sustained in them. Therefore, it's a calm place to relax and be.
Yeah. Yeah. I personally think that we should all be aware of the. I mean, I didn't think of social media applications as an analogy you gave, but we should all, like you mentioned, like just be like experience being rather than always doing, right? But okay, if we go back to some of your experiences on your website, you mentioned the healing properties of nature and how it's been used by various cultures for millennia. And you've also been to around the world, right? That's what I gathered. So can you share some of the interesting indigenous practice you've come across during your exploration? Like, is there any interesting ones you want to share with us?
I think it's around the world. It's interesting to see how different people respond to the natural world. Whilst
Mm-hmm.
I've not spent huge amounts of time with indigenous cultures, I'd love to. I haven't done yet. It's seeing people's reaction and connection with the natural world. And I've worked with a project in Zimbabwe, painted dog
Mm-hmm.
conservation,
Mm-hmm.
and it's seeing how they are changing the attitudes to local villagers about the African wild dog through the work that they do. And that
What
is
are they
helping to
changing
save
attitude about? I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Like what?
So the African wild dog is also known as the painted dog, painted wolf, Cape hunter
Okay.
dog.
Okay.
Traditionally, it's one of the predators in Africa. It's the most endangered
Hmm.
predator on the African continent. Painted dog conservation work with local community groups,
Mm-hmm.
and they provide not only things like paying for education for local children to go to
Mm-hmm.
school,
Mm-hmm.
supporting community gardens, funding eye clinics, medical care for local communities. And there was a story from a few years ago where a local farmer lost one of his goats to a pack of dogs.
Hmm.
And ordinarily, if a pack of dogs went and killed his goat, he'd go after those dogs because they'd taken money out of his pocket, taken food off his table by killing his goat.
Hmm.
But the farmer turned around and said, I can't do that. I'm not going to go after those dogs because without those dogs, painted dog conservation wouldn't be here. And without painted dog conservation, my children wouldn't go to school.
Hmm.
Our community wouldn't have a community garden on our tables.
Hmm.
We
I
wouldn't
see.
have an eye clinic, an HIV clinic. We wouldn't have an ambulance that would take us to a hospital where they were. It was about 100 miles away. There is so much, and it's seeing that attitude of projects going to change the relationship with nature, with the natural world,
Mm-hmm.
to showing the benefits that can come from it. And that's one of my favourite story, and it's one of my favourite places to be in the world. Just shows the power of actually don't see the natural world as an enemy. They
Hmm.
be responsible for that, or the pack of dogs as a bad thing. And they would have killed those dogs for killing their livestock. But actually, those attitudes have changed, and it's bringing it around, and that can be nothing but a good thing.
Yeah. And I think that's what you're doing in a sense too, right? I mean, you're changing the attitudes of people to nature, right? I guess, you might say. Okay, very cool. So let's go to we've talked a bit about forest bathing, but one of the other things that I am curious is Wim Hof Method. So can you share more about your experiences with the Wim Hof Method? How has it helped you dealing with your personal health issues like lower back injury and torn meniscus? I guess that's what's written. But also, if you've applied this to some of your clients or other people, what do you hear from them after experiencing the Wim Hof Method?
I think for anybody, if you're not aware of Wim Hof Method, it's extract devised by a Dutch guy called Wim Hof, and it brings together 3 pillars of work: breathwork, cold exposure, and mindset and commitment. I came across the Wim Hof Method back in February 2020 when a very good friend of mine at the time was going through a very dark period in his life, and he went and did a fundamentals workshop, and I spoke to him before he went in, and he was his usual low, morose self. I spoke to him again about 5 or 6 hours later as he was coming out the workshop, and it was like talking to a different person. Where there had been darkness, there was suddenly light. Where there had been despair, there was now hope, there was promise. He was talking about a future. And that really got me interested in the method. It had done amazing things for him. It was all natural. You're not adding anything to your body. You're not taking anything. It's all, you're utilizing your breath. I mean, we breathe 20,000 times a day. Yeah. We all think we know how to breathe, but actually we don't breathe properly, effectively. And I was just intrigued by the method. And that was February 2020. We then went into lockdown, and it was only when we were coming out the other side that I really had the opportunity to experience it myself. And years ago, I used to do a lot of running. And I injured my knees when I was running, and I took that as a sign of I shouldn't run anymore. My knees always hurt when I ran. So I walked, and I walked a lot, and I probably spent a decade walking with knee pain, and just thought, this is what it's going to be for me from now on. I went and did a Wim Hof fundamentals workshop. So I did the breath work, which I found fascinating, but didn't do that first time huge amounts for me. I then went into the ice, and I sat in an ice bath for 2 minutes, and it was the longest 2 minutes of my life. It was physically, mentally, emotionally the most challenging thing I'd ever done in my life. But for 10 days to 2 weeks after that ice bath, I walked pain-free. And when you walk every day for 10 years with pain and then have 10 days absolutely fine, it's the most amazing feeling. And it really made me stand up and go, I need to know more about this practice, and I need to really look into it. So I started practicing, and I use cold water in my shower every day on my knees, and it has eased the pain that I had. The person who had introduced me to the method, he walked out of my life, and because I associated the method with him, I stepped away from it for a while. But then I was back in Costa Rica last year. I injured my back on a boat taxi ride. I was told it would be, I was sat in the bow of the boat. I was told it would be a smooth crossing, and we were bouncing up and down, and it was great fun until it wasn't anymore. We hit a big wave. I took the full force of the wave. I shot up in the air. I landed very hard, and pain shot up my spine. And it since transpired, I'd locked the TL junction on my spine, and the muscles around that joint had contracted to protect it. It was the most intense pain I'd ever felt in life. But all I could do in that moment, when I was on this boat bobbing up and down in the middle of effectively the Pacific Ocean, was breathe. And everything I'd learned through the Wim Hof Method, I brought in that moment. And I utilized the power of my breath to calm my body, to calm my mind, to ease the pain that I was in. When I got back to the UK, I then played around with hot and cold as what was going to work the most to ease the back pain that I was in. And I found it was cold that helped me the most. And it was kind of like the universe again saying to me, you need to go back to the Wim Hof Method. So I did. And I stepped fully into it, and found that it was really helping me reduce my need for any painkillers, reduce my need for any pharmaceutical intervention. That using the cold, using my breath, and I saw a chiropractor as well, that all helped me get through the back injury that I had. In the meantime, with my knees, I actually ended up tearing the meniscus properly in my left knee, and I couldn't bend my knee properly. And I continued to use the cold and use my breath to get me through quite hideous knee pain. I reduced my need after I had surgery on my knee back in April. I reduced my need for any pharmaceuticals because I utilised my breath. I utilised the cold to get me through it. And that's kind of how that's my story with Wim Hof Method. I've seen other people have utilised it for various conditions, and there are more and more science coming out about the Wim Hof Method and the benefits of it, of how it will boost your immune system. I used to be somebody that I have a cold pretty much permanently from September through to April every year. I haven't had a cold since I've been practicing the Wim Hof method.
Yeah, awesome.
Because my immune system is getting an immense boost from the breath work and through the cold. I've seen people who have various autoimmune conditions that they've seen their symptoms significantly reduce and reduce their need to take pharmaceuticals because of the Wim Hof method. There is an extraordinary story that's available through the Wim Hof YouTube channel of a guy called Marcus, who 3 or 4 years ago was diagnosed with terminal liver cancer, stage 4. He was given 3 months to live. He's now living cancer-free, and he attributes a lot of that to the Wim Hof method.
Awesome.
He did chemo, he did all the other traditional treatments, but he also really threw himself into the Wim Hof method. And that's what he will say to you today if you were talking to him, that's what saved his life. So it is an amazing practice. And it's when I see people do it and when I take people through a workshop, it's amazing to see the journey that people take through that session. They generally come away with a lot of anxiety, especially about going into the cold and sitting on an ice bath, which I completely understand because, hey, I did it myself. And that first time I did it was, I know just how tough it was. But after they've done it, you feel like there's nothing you can't achieve when you've sat in an ice bath for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just water at the end of the day. Okay, cold water, frozen water. But you come out of it, there is nothing you can't do.
Yeah.
You really do feel on.
I've heard Wim Hof before. I through YouTube I stumbled it again and again. But to me, when I started taking cold showers, there is a book called The Flinch, and in this book, the idea is it tells you, normally we have our comfort zone, and when we try to get out of our comfort zone, when we try to do something else, there's the flinch. Like you can't really move, you can't really go beyond. And the author also said that there, if you want to experience the flinch right now, go open up your shower and try to get in, and you won't be able to get in. Like there's this invisible wall where you try to just get into the water, you won't be able to get in. And it's kind of it's suggested that it's kind of a daily practice, as in to get into cold shower to like stretch your comfort zone, right? And I tried that, and it actually helped me. It's psychologically, it helped me to really excel at my comfort zone. And for me, and since then I'm taking cold shower. It's been a very long time, and it was like, right now it's very hot. It's easy to take cold shower, but in the winter it was hard to do so. But still, I do take it. It really helped my psychology a lot, and probably maybe helped some of my like physical body. I'm not aware, but obviously Wim Hof method is not just getting into the cold shower. You just mentioned breathtaking and other aspects of it. Maybe I should learn those as well. Maybe it will bring some new aspect to my cold shower style. But yeah, it's awesome.
It's an amazing practice. So there are 3 pillars. So the breath work, and it's deep conscious breathing, and it's a certain pattern of breathing that we do with Wim Hof method, that if you've not tried it, I'd encourage you to look up your nearest and your local Wim Hof method instructor to be taught properly in person. There's also the cold exposure, which we do in sessions through ice baths, but you can do it through cold showers. I do it every day with a burst of cold water. There have been studies that have shown that you need a of your shower for your self-reporting of sickness to be significant. They've tested it 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and 90 seconds. You will need 30 seconds. Anybody that really doesn't like the cold. If you don't like the cold and are unsure about cold showers, starting in summer, the best time, because not only, as you say, the outdoor temperature feels it's so much warmer, it's refreshing, but your cold water coming out of your tap is likely to be warmer in the summer months than it will be during the winter months anyway. Your cold water is generally its groundwater temperature. So during the summer, that groundwater is warmer than it is during the winter.
Right.
Depending on where you live in the world, obviously. So starting
True,
it in the
understand.
summer is the right time to do it.
Yeah.
On the Wim Hof Method website, there is a 20-day cold shower challenge, which is a
Mm-hmm.
great way to get you into the habit of doing the cold. And it
Mm-hmm.
may only start with 10, 15 seconds of cold water if you're not used to it, and building that up
Yeah.
gradually. And over the course of those 20 days, you may find that by the end of it, you're able to do 1 minute, 2 minutes, which
Yeah.
right now may seem something absolutely impossible to you. But it's about building up. It's about practice. The Wim Hof Method is a practice. It's not a one-hit wonder. And it has been shown that to create a new habit, you need 66 days.
Mm-hmm.
And of those 66 days, the first 22 days, you're fighting against it. You're wanting to do what you've been doing normally or before.
Yeah.
The middle tranche of 22 days, things are balancing out between what you used to do and what you are trying to bring into your life. In those final set of 22 days, this new habit is becoming the norm for you. It's part of your day-to-day routine. And that's where kind of that third pillar of mindset and commitment come into with the Wim Hof Method. It is making that commitment that you're going to bring into your life. And maybe it's every day, maybe it's every other day, whatever works for you and your lifestyle. The mindset part of it is you have to be in the frame of mind. You have to really focus inwards to be able to do some of it. As you say, it's outside your comfort zone. And a very good friend of mine always says life begins at your comfort zone. And it's jumping in and really focusing. And when it comes to it in a fundamentals workshop, when we come to the ice bath part of it, you're either going to get it or you're not. And that's absolutely fine. As long as it's your decision, I'm not going to force anybody to get into the ice if they don't want to, if they're not ready for it. The number one of the Wim Hof Method is there is no forcing.
Yeah. But it's fun.
It's down to your mindset. Amazing fun, and I love it now. I hate that first ice bath. I absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
But now look at me. I'm a Wim Hof Method instructor. Last week I sat in an ice bath for 20 minutes. I couldn't have done that without putting in that commitment to bringing this method into my life. I believe it changed my life. I've seen it save the life of people that are close to me. I am such a huge fan of the method. I think it's just an extraordinary practice.
I just want to say about cold showers or cold bath. I personally thought before in my life, before this year, I thought I would never be able to take a cold shower because I've never done it before in my life. I never took, cold shower before this year. And I was like so serious. I was telling people, no, I tried. It's impossible for me. But I guess it wasn't that impossible after all. Your body adjusts to it. So and it even becomes, how to say, right now, if I don't take a cold shower, I even this is out of physical benefits or like psychological benefits. It's just, it doesn't feel right because I think cold shower is an effect where you really wake up. I don't know. Like I feel like I wake up after I took the cold shower, right? It's just I think if you're like me, try it out. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely try it out. And it's that bringing it into your life, trying it in a way that is safe to you. Cold exposure is anything under about 15, 16 degrees centigrade. So it doesn't have to be as cold as you think it should be for you to get benefit from it.
Yeah.
And say it's only work up to a 30-second blast of cold water. To start with, you will have that, it will be a shock. But once you've done it first time, your body knows what it's expecting and your body remembers. And it's a hormetic stressor. Going into the cold and during the breath work, we do breath holds, which are again another hormetic stressor. And by having these, it's a positive stressor on your body. It's helping you get ready and prepare and cope with other stresses in your life. And going into a cold shower, it's a controlled, stressful environment. And the Wim Hof Method isn't something being done to you. You are in control of what you are doing.
Yeah.
Ultimately. Nobody's forcing you. Say, first rule, there is no forcing in the Wim Hof Method. You are doing it to you. You are in control. You are changing your life by doing this practice. You are changing your body chemistry through the breath work. You are taking control of your future and helping you live a happier, healthier and stronger life. And that can only be a good thing.
I will personally check that breathtaking work and some other things of Wim Hof Method, because you mentioned great benefits. Maybe I was just getting partial benefits from what I'm doing. Maybe I'll be able to reach the full benefits, hopefully. Thank you for sharing those. But let's get back to, you actually mentioned George. I had a question about this. So in the website as well, you mentioned your love for monkeys and a cuddly monkey called George you were giving as a baby. So
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about how this shaped your connection with nature and your path to becoming the eco monkey?
So yeah, I was, as a baby, my aunt in Canada made me a Curious George. And my parents can't remember whether I had him when I was born, whether it was my first Christmas or first birthday, but it was in the 70s. And George has been a constant companion for me, and I've been obsessed with monkeys. I absolutely love monkeys. In my flat, there are monkeys everywhere you turn. And I was coming up with a name of what to call my business. Person who was my best mate, he was the same person who introduced me to the Wim Hof Method. An extraordinary soul called Akana. He came up with the name of the Eco Monkey for me, because he knew my obsession with monkeys. He knew how much I love monkeys, and the eco part of it just made sense with what I was trying to do and trying to achieve. So yeah, that's kind of where my love of George, Curious George, was amazing. But interestingly, growing up in the UK, Curious George wasn't really a thing when I was little. So people didn't really understand who Curious George was. But I have got all of the books still.
I like monkeys too. There is some on social media as well. You see different videos of a lot of acts of monkeys that sometimes funny, sometimes brave, sometimes like I don't know, very human-like in a sense, right? I love monkeys as well, but I guess
chimpanzees, bonobos as well, which are another species of primate that are similar to chimps. We have incredible genetic match with them. And if you look at an adult chimpanzee, they have the same intelligence and knowledge as kind of a 6-year-old child. Yeah. Is the way it was described to me once. I did some work at a primate sanctuary in Spain, and they're extraordinary.
Yeah, so I think in taxonomical, I mean, I'm not a biologist or like a taxonomist, I guess, but from what I know, monkey is the family name of like every, like for example, chimpanzee, gorilla, also like Homo sapiens, humans are also in this branch. Like monkeys, from what I know in taxonomical sense, it's a family name. But anyways, I mean, this is not a biology podcast. Yeah, so like, I mean, we love monkeys. That's the I think bottom of it. Okay, let's go to another question, which is the EcoNIDRA. So can you elaborate on what a typical EcoNIDRA session looks like and what benefits participants can expect to derive from it?
So EcoNIDRA is based on Yoga Nidra, which is as old as yoga itself. It's also known as yogic sleep. And EcoNIDRA combines nature connection practices for what is a deeply relaxing experience. And it was devised by a friend of mine she's based in the Netherlands, Kat Novotna. And it brings together these extraordinary practices to help you recharge and reset. So in an EcoNIDRA session, we go on 3 journeys together. As a practice, as somebody, when you take an EcoNIDRA session, it's my type of yoga. You don't contort your body into any silly shapes. You just lay down and let the person, the teacher, the guide, take you on 3 journeys. The first journey is a journey through your senses. You wake up those senses and really connect in with your senses. The second journey is a pilgrimage through your body, which is traditional with Yoga Nidra. And the third is a journey into the natural world. And we do that through a soundscape. And it's a specially curated soundscape for the session. And the session lasts maybe 45, 50 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But that one session is said to have the same effect on your body as 3 to 4 hours of good night's sleep. It's a very much restorative practice. It can recharge you, reset you, and give you that moment of rest. I find it an extraordinary and beautiful practice. I come out of it feeling deeply relaxed. I've also utilised it when I've been travelling for jet lag, because it gives me that when I've not been able to sleep in the middle of the night, whether I'm somewhere or whether I've come back, it's given me that extra, or the equivalent of 4 hours of sleep, which has really helped me come back to the time zone in which I'm in a much better and easier way.
Yeah, awesome. Do you, by the way, did I understand it wrong? Like, do you take 3 journeys in one session, or like, do you focus on one for each session?
3 journeys in one session. So you just listen to my voice as I guide you through. So it's a deep meditation, effectively. And I guide you through those first 2 journeys, and then I will introduce the soundscapes and let those sounds take you wherever those sounds want to take you.
Yeah.
And we all have different connotations with different sounds that will take us to different places. And that in its own right is that really deeply learning. They're really soft and gentle nature sounds on the whole. There may be some that aren't so. But yeah, they take you on a journey in their own right. And then we bring you back round again and back to the present moment. And we always, at the end of the EcoNIDRA session, we always offer the same invitation. And that is that EcoNIDRA is based on the act of kindness, and kindness to yourself, kindness to the planet. And we always invite people at the end of the session to do act of kindness in the days or weeks for another being, whether that's another person, an animal, or something for the planet, without expecting anything in return. And it's just bringing that kindness and spreading that kindness, because the world needs more of that, quite honestly.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I think you have that, some people has that kind of voice where, if they were to tell a story, you would listen all day. I think you, your accent and, your accent and your voice is kind of the same. So maybe, I would like to take on that maybe one day. It's, you have some sort of a soothing voice. I encounter with these, it's interesting though, where some people can, just by talking to them, I mean, you're not doing anything, you're just talking with them, but you feel a little bit calmer. It's a very interesting experience for sure. Yeah, but okay, let's looking at your website, you also offer solutions for bringing balance into the workplace through nature connection. So could you share some successful experiences or transformations you have observed in these settings?
Yeah, I mean, I work with a program called Wellbeing Inspired by Nature, and it is a connection of like-minded souls, that we are a global network of wanting to support businesses to bring in more nature connection for the well-being of their staff and employees. And it's bringing in, we have 3 areas of work we do. One is bringing that nature connection directly into the workplace, and how you can make some simple changes in your office environment to really help support your well-being. And that's bringing nature in there, whether that is through having plants on desks, having the pictures that are on the walls, for example. It has been proven that if you've got a picture and you can see water, it is a more calming, soothing environment.
Yeah.
Actual running water. So we have that side of how we can transform the office space, the workplace itself. We also take groups out into nature, and that can either be for breaking up. If you've got a full day's meeting, we can take you out and connect you into a natural space. And being out in nature is proven to support your productivity, your creativity. So we can help really support when you've got a full day planning meeting. there's nothing worse than being sat in a meeting room in quite a sterile environment all day, because by the end of it, you are feeling anything but creative and productive. But actually, if you can introduce elements of time spent outside doing some bathing invitations, for example, then it helps drive you and brings more into that meeting space. We also offer people do at their own time. So with the EcoNIDRA that we've been about, you can have a recording of EcoNIDRA made available to your staff members. So when they are coming home at the end of the day, or if they're working from home, as many people are still, we've got this hybrid working scenario around the world. It's bringing that opportunity and giving your employees, your team, that opportunity to have that moment of calm and peace at the end of a stressful period, so that they can access these materials when they want to. So I've worked with a lot of different organisations. I've been involved with when they've had team away days or planning weeks, of going in and offering that little bit different. So it isn't all work. Yeah. It's coming in and going, let's actually take that down and reconnect with nature and just pause for a moment and just be. It's going back to that idea again of we're human beings, we're not human doings. Let's take some time to just be out in nature, and you find that they go back into the next meeting, or whatever that might be, feeling more refreshed, feeling charged, ready to tackle whatever the next topic is they need to tackle. Whereas if they hadn't had that time outside, they'd just be feeling quite lethargic because you've been stuck inside a room all day.
The thing that I wonder is, how does your routine look like in a spiritual sense? Like how do you like, let's say you just wake up, it's a weekend, and I don't know, you don't have any clients, you don't have nothing to do. I mean, even if you do, I mean, you probably have some time to yourself, right? What's your spiritual routine look like?
So my day starts when I wake up. I do my Wim Hof Method breath work when I'm still in bed. So I do 4 rounds of normal breathing. I do a couple of rounds of power breathing. When I get up and have my shower, I end my shower with cold water. So that's my cold exposure for the day with Wim Hof. And at the moment I'm doing 5 minutes of cold water. A lot of that is targeted on my knees, where I've had problems anyway. So I do 2 minutes on either knee and then a minute over my body. I always make sure, as part of my day, I try and spend as much time as I can outside. And I always try and go for a walk every day. Even if it's pouring with rain, I will go out in all weathers. If I can get my 10,000 steps in a day, then I try to, but I certainly try and get outside. And when I'm down here where I live on the south coast, I spend time down at the beach, watching the waves. That's very important to me. I get my 10,000 steps every day, and I spend as much time as I can reconnecting with being with the sea. I'm very lucky that I live close to the sea, and I have a river outside my window that I can.
That's your window.
My kind of connection time that I love to be able to have that time to just watch and connect with and be with every day.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, only thing that I can do is I have close to me, like I have a little park, and there are a bunch of trees and it's a little bit greenery. I like to walk too, I mean, I actually, some of my insights, I mean, I didn't have big insights as of yet, I guess, but some of my insights come through walking, especially when I am really focused on some of my work and I'm stuck at it, and if I go back and just walk a little bit, I sort it out. So yeah, that's why I was interested in that beach that you mentioned in the start of our conversation. Maybe a change of scenery will help me to get some big insights. But okay, so these I'm coming to my last question, which is, could you share any books, authors, or thinkers that have profoundly influenced your work and your worldview?
There are a couple of books that I would recommend everybody read. One of them is What Has Nature Done for Us by Tony Juniper. It's an amazing book that really brings to home the power of the natural world and why it's so important to us.
How did that change your life, maybe? Like, I mean, how did it change your worldview in a sense? Yeah.
it made me come to appreciate the natural world more. That it does so much for us. There is so much that it gives us. We often see things talk about in financial terms. And if you look at the financial benefits of the natural world and maintaining a healthy environment, it's extraordinary. So Tony Juniper has written he's written 2 books. One is What Has Nature Ever Done For Us, which is looking at a global view, and there's What Has Nature Ever Done For Britain, which is, that book is almost like a manifesto for, if you're imagining a political campaign, that book of What Has Nature Ever Done For Britain really does shout the case for protecting the natural world in Britain. But the What Has Nature Ever Done For Us from a global perspective is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant book.
Yeah.
The second book I'd recommend would be The Nature Fix by Florence Williams. It's an amazing book that's looking at the benefits for well-being of time spent out in nature. It's really beautifully written. It's a very easy read. So I'd highly, highly recommend that. There is the Wim Hof Method by Wim Hof himself. I can't not sing the praises of the guy who's effectively my boss. It is a brilliant book. It tells his story of how he came and how he's utilised the Wim Hof Method to get through some of the toughest times in his life. And we'll take you through how to actually bring the Wim Hof Method into your own life. There's another book called Breath by James Nestor, which really talks about the benefits of the breath, especially of nasal breathing as opposed to mouth breathing. And everything that we take breath and breathing for granted, and breath really is an opportunity to open your eyes to see that there's more to it. We don't breathe effectively, we don't breathe properly, and to really focus on your breath more. Ultimately, we can go for weeks without food, we can go for days without water, we can't go more than a few minutes without taking a breath. We really need to pay it more attention than we currently do.
Yeah.
So those would be my 4 key books I would say everybody should read.
I mean, I'll definitely check them out. Especially Wim Hof Method and the last book that you told me. It's intriguing. Breathing is kind of a weird thing. Like, you feel a little bit stressed, but then you change your posture and breathe a little bit more deeply, then you become excited. It's certainly, for example, when I am taking cold showers still, your body is a little bit, it doesn't want to go a little bit. I take a deep breath, it helps. That's for sure. I mean, breathing and the excuse me.
So when you're doing the cold, when you get into the cold, and you're doing anything where it is a stressful situation for your body, what you need to do is take a deep breath in through your nose and push that breath out longer than your inhale. So have a much longer exhale out of the mouth. And that will calm your body. So when you're in a stressful situation, take one deep breath in and then really push that breath out and make that out breath much longer than your in breath.
Okay.
And that will calm your mind and it will calm your body. And in any stressful situation, that will just bring you back down to a good place again.
Okay. I hope I'll remember that next time. I don't become stressful these days, so I don't know. I think changing the attitude of looking the world. I mean, everybody gets stressed sometimes, but hopefully next time I get stressed, I'll remember this, and hopefully it will help our audience, right? Okay, thank you for the book recommendations. And if you want to follow Holly, you can follow her on her website first, the-eco-monkey.com. And she has a blog over there, and you can find all the things that we talked about, all the things that she does, and how to get in contact with her over there. Also, she has a Twitter account, which is twitter.com/hb78. And also another Twitter account with the Eco Monkey. It's twitter.com/ecomonkeyguide. And I don't know if you have any more. Do you have any more social media account or anything else? These are the ones that I could find.
You can find me on Facebook as the Eco Monkey.
Facebook. Okay, can you
Facebook
say that?
and Instagram, I'm the Eco Monkey.
The EcoMonkey. Okay. And these will be all down in the description in the show notes. You can find the links. Okay. So Holly, these were all my questions. And if do you have anything to add, any commentary, anything that you want to say to our audience?
All I say, in the words of Wim Hof himself, is all the love and all the power.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in. I learned a lot from you today, and hopefully these insights and these knowledge will help our audience as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. All right then. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Have a nice one. Bye bye.